Next, we'll introduce you to Newcastle County's new police chief, and he says one heinous crime is his top priority to solve. This is the Delaware Way. Welcome to the Delaware Way. I'm Larry Menti. Newcastle County has a new man in charge of law enforcement. Meet Colonel Vaughn M.Bond Jr., the new Newcastle County police chief. Sir, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Can you give a little bit of your background since you're new at the job, just to introduce yourself to people?
Well, I've been on the police department now for 26 years. Started in December of 1991 after graduating from Delaware State University with a degree in psychology. Got on the police department, went through the academy, of course, as we all do. Entered into patrol division, stayed there for 5 years before I went to the criminal investigations unit. I spent from 1996 to 2003 in the criminal investigations unit. Did an assortment of assignments ranging from drug investigations, undercover drug investigations, to family services unit, where we investigated crimes against children, physical and sexual assault cases against children, up to our major crimes, where I handled homicides, shootings, and your more significant events. Was promoted to the rank of sergeant in 2003, promoted to the rank of lieutenant in 2006, and promoted to captain in 2010. I'm
so glad we gave you the opportunity to say all that, because it shows you've gone from the streets to getting your stripes up to this. You've earned this job over 26 years, and you've been able to watch as other people have been in the job to say this is what needs to be done. Have you ever said, if I get in that position, this is what I'm going to do?
I never had in my wildest dreams that I think that I would ever be the chief of police. However, I did watch and I saw a lot of the good characteristics and leadership skills of former colonels during my tenure as a police officer. Colonel Cunningham was instrumental in community policing. Tom Gordon was actually my first police chief, instrumental in community policing. Colonel Scott McLaren was instrumental in community policing, but he was also very much in tune with the rank and file and making sure that they were taken care of. Of course, recently with Colonel Setting, moving the department forward in terms of technology as well as community policing.
Now, it's interesting because you keep bringing up community policing, so I imagine that's something that you see yourself in advancing in office. But Colonel Setting, he was here several times, he did seem to have a broken windows policy.
Yes.
That he wanted to go after low-level crime, and he said when you go after low-level crime, that stops some of the major crimes. Are those two in conflict, community policing and going after low-level crime?
No, I think that the low-level crimes are called in by the community. When we talk about the low-level crime, we're talking about individuals that are on a corner selling drugs. They're affecting the quality of life in that community. We're talking about individuals that are on corners shooting dice, that are disorderly. And you have people, we're not just deciding that we want to go out there and address that problem. We're going out to a particular community because we're being called by members of that community. So when you go out and you address those issues, you're in essence doing community policing. Now, we also have all of our officers we encourage them to be engaged with the community, to be out there, to stop their vehicles, to stop what they're doing, to talk and have a conversation with individuals, find out what's going on. That's a part of community policing as well. We have our community services unit. We just finished with a event this past Saturday with our Casting with Cops program, where we actually invite the community out to Glasgow Park and we do fishing with them. The weather wasn't the greatest, but we still had a great turnout. So we have those activities that are taking place, but I believe
you don't see the two as a conflict.
If you're in that community and you're having an issue or a problem, such as the people on the corner disorderly or the drugs or drug usage, and now we're coming out there and we're addressing that problem, well, there's a lot of people who are standing in support of it. Now they have a better quality of life because that problem has been removed from there. There has to still be an enforcement arm to community policing.
No, I get what you're saying, but you know what I'm getting at, that there's a lot of people that believe that when they're stopped for, say, loitering, or they're stopped for public urination, or they're stopped for drunk and disorderly in a corner, that the fact that the police are constantly coming after it, nowadays, that's called harassment. that you're harassing people in the community when they're not doing something. You went right to drugs, and I don't think anybody would argue with that.
Well, I would think that if you're saying public urination, I think that's an issue and has to be addressed. I think some of the other things that you mentioned are legitimate issues that have to be addressed. And I think that the police have a responsibility to deal with those issues. I don't think it's right, and I would beg to differ with anyone.
And it's interesting because when Colonel Setting was here, he talked about going after somebody from public urination, and it was a drug dealer who was armed at the time. So that many times going after low-level crime, you catch high-level crime.
Right.
But I think it's fascinating that you took community policing to mean the community at large and not just the people who may be on the street corner. The community's a bigger thing than that.
Yeah, because
I think it's confused sometimes.
Well, I think that you're saying it's a larger, the community is larger. Absolutely. While we may have a few people who are upset because we stopped them because they're loitering, because they're involved with smoking marijuana on the corner, you know, we have a job to do, and we have a responsibility to the law-abiding citizens who far outnumber those who are committing crimes. My responsibility is to them first and foremost.
Do you have a responsibility to the people in the city of Wilmington at all?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because that's not in your jurisdiction, is it?
No, it's not in our jurisdiction, but our responsibility to the citizens of Wilmington is this. If the Wilmington Police Department calls us and they ask for assistance to deal with an issue in their communities, then we stand ready to assist them. One of the things I want to make it clear is that, you know, a lot of times there's been a lot of discussion about Newcastle County Police going into the city. What people don't understand is that there are quite often times that we call on Wilmington Police Department to assist us with things that are happening in the county. So it's a two-way street. But over the years, it seems like there's been a lot more publicity given to the fact that the county is going into the city as opposed to what the city actually does for the county as well.
Since we're on the topic, and it's worked in Camden County, New Jersey, where the county took over the city department because they were having a major problem with crime. And it worked. By all measures, it worked. You don't see that working here?
Well, I
know it's not your call.
Yeah, no. Well, it's not my call, but I also don't think that at this point there's a need for that. I think the Wilmington Police Department is a fine organization. I think they have a great group of talented officers, command staff. I think they have everything that they need in order to be successful in the city of Wilmington.
If the homicide numbers don't come down, is there a need for that?
Wilmington Police Department has a tradition, a rich tradition, history. They have some of the most talented investigators within this state and probably along this East Coast. So I'm not a proponent of merging the two agencies. I think that, you know, they made a decision. They have a new chief. I think that you have to give it some time. It may work elsewhere. And it could possibly work here if that were to happen.
It's not the time.
Right now, I think it's too early.
Sir, if you could stick around for another segment.
Yes, sir.
One more. Colonel Vaughn M.Bond Jr., Newcastle County Police Chief. When we come back, we'll talk about the heroin epidemic and specifically a crime that the Colonel cares deeply about when we come right back.